Well, thank you for joining us in this fascinating episode 14, Hotels' New Protocols Between the Possible and the Desirable. Really, it's an exciting topic because, well, as you know, protocols is we are all talking about protocols, and we have thousands of protocols of different, different independent of each country, each destination in each country. Well, we will talk about all of this with these two very important members of the industry. I am talking about Diana Plazas-Trowbridge, Chief Sales and Marketing Officer of Marriott Caribbean and Latin America, and Hugo Desenzani, CEO of Libertador Hotels, the big company of the big Peruvian hotel company. Thank you. One more. Take care that we have available simultaneous translation. If you go down to the screen, you will see the possibility to choose if you will stay in English or Spanish. Spanish translation will be available all the episode. Well, thank you so much, Diana, and you and Hugo to stay with us in this episode. And well, first of all, I would like to give you, Diana, and then Hugo, go and say, do their own introduction about what is your responsibility in the industry right now.
Thank you so much, Arturo, for having us. And as Arturo mentioned, I am the Chief Sales and Marketing Officer for Marriott for the Caribbean and Latin America. That means that my organization is responsible for driving top line into our more than 260 hotels across 34 countries where we're present today, as well as obviously supporting the pre-opening hotels in the pipeline and ensuring that we're driving sales, that we're supporting our hotels across revenue management strategies, marketing, loyalty, leveraging everything that comes from a global perspective across Marriott and our more than 7,000 hotels in our portfolio of brands and loyalty program, but also how we pull through across the region and ensure that we're driving results and supporting our owners, our hotel teams, and our customers in the markets.
Thank you, Diana.
Thank you.
Hugo?
Thank you. Well, thank you, Arturo. Hugo Desenzani. I'm the CEO of Libertador and in Tursa. We basically are a Peruvian hotel ownership company. We own different hotels across Peru, all of them under the Marriott brands. We are actually, I believe, the biggest owner of Marriott hotels in South America, with about 1,600 rooms. And we basically have our main hub is Lima, where most of our hotel concentrate, but we do have some award-winning resorts throughout Cusco, Urubamba, and Paracas.
Thank you, Hugo. Well, it's interesting this episode because we have the two sides, no? The owners and the brand, no?
Yes.
And with the same brand, with the very interesting. With Marriott, that really was the first one that go into this matter of to work with protocols. No, what is exactly the Marriott Global Clean Lights Council, and what are you doing, and what you do to put in practice these Marriott protocols, Diana?
Absolutely. Thank you, Arturo. So the Marriott Global Cleanliness Council was created really to advance our efforts in this area now post-COVID-19, and obviously while we're still going through it. The council is really about benefiting from the knowledge that comes from our in-house teams, but then also outside experts. We are leveraging teams with expertise in food safety, public health, hygiene, infection prevention, etc. And it's chaired by our Chief Global Officer of Global Operations, Ray Bennett, but with advisory members from Ecolab, which is one of our key partners, obviously, that helps us across the region, an infectious disease specialist from the healthcare side, also leveraging Purdue University's head of the School of Hospitality and Tourism Management, and also professor of food microbiology. And it's really, again, it's about bringing together their expertise, what they're seeing, what they're hearing, what we're seeing internally, and ensuring that we are helping our hotels, our owners, and also then communicating to our guests the approach that we're taking to ensure safety and to continue to provide the experience that we've been so proud to provide for over 75 years, 93 years under the Marriott name. Arturo.
You're on mute, Arturo.
Excuse me, my apologies, please. Hugo, how do you, well, you have hotels in Lima, and you have some resorts and leisure hotel destinations. How are they open or closed? And if they are open, how are you managing to put in practice protocols and more? How do you manage Marriott protocols with perhaps some special regulation or requirements, not only on the country, perhaps in the different cities, because this is a complex process, no? How you are running this, managing this?
Yes, well, that's the beauty of it, Arturo. We were hit with this pandemic, and in a matter of days, the whole industry changed from the way we commercialize to the way we operate, to the way we staff our people, to the uniforms that we use, to cultural concepts. I mean, you know, we as hoteliers have historically been doing cleaning as hidden as we can from the guest view, and now we're going to have to do cleaning as explicit as we can, because people will want to see the person cleaning, whereas in the past we did it as, you know, hidden as we possibly could. So things change. The great thing is that we're part of the Marriott family. We've been, you know, very aligned with all the initiatives that they do globally, and it's great because you have, you know, like very skilled people designing protocols with the latest technology. We get alignment on things from, you know, which chemicals to use to which equipment to buy. At the same time, you have to conciliate those protocols with what the law says. And our approach has been, let's take the most extreme of both. So, you know, if Marriott is saying people need to be 1 meter apart and the government is saying 2, we make social distancing of 2 meters instead of 1. You know, that's kind of an easy example. But we follow both, and we take the most extreme of all. And that has proven very resourceful for us. We have had great results. To answer your first question, we have our hotels in Lima are open, but they're not doing hospitality as we traditionally know it. They're actually providing quarantines, whether it's for Peruvians that return to the country and are mandated to stay 14 days in a hotel, or workers of companies, of you know, first responders or workers from companies that basically need to isolate while they receive the results of the testing. We've had about 16,000 room nights since the crisis started. And the great thing is that we have had, you know, several positive cases of people that we do testing and they test positive, whether it's people that come from another country or employees that have been off for a week and they come back to work. But the great thing is that with all those positive cases that we've had so far zero infections within the hotels. So we've been able to stop all those outbreaks that we had. You know, that's proof that the protocols are working.
Thank you, Hugo. And one question: how is the reaction of the staff when you decide to stay open and you begin to establish protocols? How was the reaction of the staff? How they feel? They feel safe, comfortable, to bring the services to work every day. How was this reaction?
Well, you know, for starters, we have the best staff in the world, so that helps a lot. We have the best team, both in our managed and in our franchise hotels, I have to say. And we, you know, there is some concern, obviously. There's some personal concern that we all have about going out, about going to grocery shopping. I think, you know, what we've done is we've made it health. We've had a health-centric approach. It's all about health. It's all about safety. They've seen that. They've seen our commitment. That helps diminish a little bit that anxiety that is created by having to go out and work. We've made many of well, first we've identified people that either have some other risk factors or live with people that have risk factors, and we've allowed them to opt out to work. We actually allowed anybody to opt out of work if they really don't feel safety. But we've created sufficient protocols, and we've communicated them sufficiently to show them that it's actually, in many cases, safer to come to work than to stay at home. We have a lot of our staff that actually come in and stay in the hotel for a 7-day period, working, getting tested in isolation while they're not at work. And then, you know, they go back home for a week and they come back. And actually, if you measure the tracing, the interactions that they have, it's actually much safer to be at work than to be at home in many cases.
Thank you, Hugo. And Diana, I think it should be a huge effort to align the Marriott new protocols with the standards with the different government. You have hotels all over the world. No, I think that this should be a huge challenge. How was the experience? How do you manage that?
Yeah, so it definitely starts with the relationship that we have with our owners, like with Hugo, for example, when it comes to a market like Peru, and working with our teams on the ground, whether it's our area teams or our general managers and their relationship to their local governments, and really working as closely as possible with them to ensure that we're adhering, obviously, first to those local regulations, because in order for the hotels to be able to operate and to welcome guests, they need to be able to respect all of those local restrictions, and making sure that then we align with that additional layer that we're bringing in from a Marriott perspective, and then we're driving the maximum effect based on that. We do weekly calls, weekly communications, really with all the different markets, ensuring that we're capturing that information and that there's a two-way feedback as well. So in a certain market, if they're hearing something that the government is wanting to implement, we're able to support the hotels in it, or whether it's in procuring any of the cleaning materials or any of the new technology that maybe they have to use, being able to provide them with that. And one of the key also areas that we're leveraging, or one of the key resources that we're leveraging as part of this alignment with local governments, is what we're calling our cleanliness champions. So we have a cleanliness champion at every single one of our hotels, whether you're open or you're closed and preparing to reopen again. And they are really around working in tandem both with our regional team, but then also with our global team. So they participate in global calls and get to hear what may be happening in markets in Asia or in Europe, and ensuring that they have what they need to implement both their local protocols, but then also the Marriott protocols, and giving us feedback, giving us their concerns, any potential issues, and being able to have that coverage, again, in more than 100 countries and across all of the hotels, has been very, very helpful to have those cleanliness champions be that on-the-ground resource that is able to also then engage with their general managers or with our owners and franchise partners to bring it to life. But again, it first starts with ensuring that we're following that local regulation and amplifying from there to drive the most safety and security for our guests and for our associates.
Thank you. This is that all your properties, independent if it's are under management or franchise, receive your protocols all over the world, no? And independent if they are open or not, no? In order to, I suppose, to be prepared, no? Because, for example, in the region, how is the situation of the hotel, the Marriott properties, more or less, which is the average of the hotels that are open and closed?
Yeah, so we still have about over 60% or so of our hotels are closed, mainly related to government regulations. So we know in some of our countries, hotels are not still part of the phased approach, or not quite there yet. In a lot of others, is tied to airlift not being open, or incoming travelers from other countries not being allowed, borders being closed, etc. So we're working again with ensuring that our open hotels have everything that they need, start procuring also additional materials or resources, whether it's things like the electrostatic sprayers, for example, being able to procure those in all the countries, and starting to implement all of the protocols. And then for those that are closed right now, that they're ready for when they reopen and have all the right measurements. But again, right now it's getting ready for a lot of July reopenings, as we know many of our countries are preparing for July reopenings, and ensuring that we're supporting the hotels and our owners along the way.
And tell me, you have different protocols, or you adjust protocols if there are urban or resorts or luxury or economy? How do you manage this? You have different set of protocols?
So the protocols are the same. They're overarching across all brands, regardless of if they're your resort or if you're a select service hotel in a city center. But it's more about what the actual physical experience of the protocol may look like, based on whether you're a luxury hotel or a premium hotel or select service. So let's say the hand sanitizer stations may look very different, as let's say at the Tambo del Inca, one of Hugo's hotels, versus his AC in Lima. So it's more about how those visible signs look differently from one hotel to the next, and also depending on the different brand standards as well that we have for each one of the brands in the portfolio. But the overarching protocols apply to all hotels, all brands, across the board.
Yeah, makes sense. But let me tell you one more. In the last time, you decided to be more involved in the all-inclusive model. And a lot of people are asking, well, what happened with the all-inclusive, no? And because it's different, you know, and perhaps some similar is the breakfast buffet, no? Is something similar in the not all-inclusive hotel. Do you implement special protocols to give confidence to the hotels, that used to be much involved with the all-inclusive services? How do you manage that?
Yeah, so obviously we're very excited to have entered the all-inclusive space last year, and with the hotels that we have open right now that are all-inclusive or that are getting ready to reopen now based on their different market conditions and the government regulations. But again, the protocols, the overarching protocols apply. And then we're working through some of the specific nuances that may be there for all-inclusive. And a lot of the partners that we work with also, whether it's tour operators or some of the key travel partners that book into our all-inclusive, have also shared with us some of their specific information that they would like to see, some of the specific approaches that they would like to see. So we're looking at those hotel by hotel, based on, again, the type of business that they're getting from some of these partners. But overall, is really about ensuring that safety and security of our guests, of our associates, and making sure that we're complying to the local operation and then also to the global law. And it's been interesting to actually see so much of the research coming in from the US and Canada about how travelers, one, there's obviously just so much eagerness for people to start traveling again. And we know US and Canada being big source markets into some of our destinations in the region and some of our all-inclusives, and how eager they are to get back to all-inclusive hotels, because they know that there's that more control across their entire experience once they arrive at the hotel. So we know that once they start able to travel again into, whether it's into Costa Rica where we have some, or Barbados, or coming hotels in Mexico, that they're going to have not only the Marriott name behind it with the compliance with the local law, but then also with some of the specific partners from an all-inclusive perspective. And again, that entire stay from beginning to end within the property covered with these protocols.
Thank you, Diana. And Hugo, from the point of view of an owner company like Intursa, a huge owner company, it's fantastic to receive protocol from the brand, but I suppose that you have your own request, and you have the request from the governments. How do you implement the combination of this mix of requests, no? Your personal request from the company, Marriott, and the government, no? And to put in practice that. No?
Yes. Well, so I think it's better kind of to understand it chronologically, because the situation was the following. We got hit with the pandemic mid-March. You know, the team and I were remembering those meetings that we had kind of in late February when we knew about COVID, but it was kind of an Asian problem. And we're saying, well, that's never going to impact us because, you know, we sell less than $1 million per year to the Chinese market. So, you know, that's okay. It's not a relevant market. And, you know, and of course, it in a matter of weeks, it hit us like everybody else. So we're hit on March 15th. And then on March, or around that date, but a couple of days later, the government says, well, I'm getting this plane full of Peruvians that are coming back to their country, and they need to spend 14 days in isolation. So there's a disease that we don't know much about it, because even though by now we're all epidemiologists, by then nobody knew much about this disease. And, you know, we had to receive planes and planes of people. We don't know really how lethal it is. We don't know how contagious it is, because it's kind of it's something new. And we have to do protocols, but we have to do protocols not in a matter of weeks, in a matter of hours, because we need to get these people in the hotels. And we couldn't say no to the government, and we didn't want to say no to the government. We wanted to do our part. So we did the protocols as good as we could, you know, and we focused on hygiene, on social distancing, you know, but by then people thought that the hot weather killed the virus, so we turned off the AC. You know, we did all kind of things that were based on what we knew thus far. But so those were our protocols, which we did hours after the outbreak, and we couldn't wait because we had the necessary. We needed to open the hotels, and we needed to operate with the virus. And of course, then came Marriott protocols, because, you know, you couldn't expect a company with the level of thoroughness of Marriott to do in a matter of hours protocols. So then came the Marriott fast for the amount of work that had to be done, but certainly not within hours, more within weeks. And it came, and we complemented. We put everything that we're missing. We realized by then our protocols already were in version 6 or 7 by the time the Marriott came, and we complemented, and we again went for the most strict of both. The last protocols were the government, because, you know, I mean, if Marriott is a big company, governments are usually, you know, they take a little longer. Mm-hmm. But what we did there to be prepared is we went to the government and said, you're probably wondering about protocols. You're probably going to launch protocols. Here are our protocols. Use them. Here are our protocols. This is what we complemented with Marriott, and it works. And it works because, you know, we've stopped all the outbreaks that we had within the hotel. We have zero contagion within our walls. So use them. And they reviewed them, and, you know, proud to say that the protocols that came from the Peruvian government are very similar to ours. Of course, they got information from other hotels, But you know, we because of our size, we do have a responsibility with the industry, and we share them, and that was the best. So now we have protocols that are pretty similar one to each other. They're the best of three worlds. You know, the public, Marriott, and our kind of like really like fast, but you know, like agile protocols that we did, and that mixes what we currently use.
Thank you. And I came to my mind, perhaps, and for both, no, these protocols and this new era with the pandemic and with the next step after pandemic, and perhaps infrastructures of the hotels need to be adjusted, no? Which is the experience, Hugo, first. Do you need to do some adjusted in infrastructure to maintain social distance, perhaps in social areas or in bars or restaurants? How are you managing that?
So this is a tough question, and there's different point of views. I'm gonna start by saying what mine is from a personal level. I think that we will have to have these strict protocols while this disease is uncontrolled and it is a pandemic. I have faith in our scientific community that soon we'll find a solution, whether it's therapeutic, vaccine, or that we know something more about the virus that makes it less lethal or less contagious. While a solution, when a solution happens, I think we're going to be going back more to the normal than to the current operational system. I know some people believe that social distancing is here to stay forever. I disagree personally. I think after the virus, we're going to go back to normal. That's my belief. I always show to my team the picture of, you know, Times Square, New Year's Eve, 1919. And, you know, it's the year that we're recovering from the worst pandemic. After a month of social distancing, you know, you see that picture and you know, it's packed. And it's months after a pandemic, you know, without a vaccine, but just the pandemic was over. So I think the human spirit of the human needs connection. So sorry about the long answer, but basically that goes to the way we strategize about COVID. And I think we're certainly investing on solutions to give, to cope with the virus and to give confidence. We're putting plexiglass on the front desk. You know, we're marking the elevators to allow less people in. We're taking furniture out of the restaurant to give more space. We're doing all the kind of things that are short term. But when somebody comes in and offers me, you know, a $1 million solution to put bubble around everybody and walk around in self-isolation, I usually say no. I don't think there's going to be ROI on that. I think, you know, hopefully this is going to be, you know, short-lived.
Thank you. And before to go to Diana, let me say you that I agree with your vision. I think that soon we will be talking about something that had happened, no? And we will go for. I like to speak about the new old, not the new, no, it's the new old. We will be back. Well, taking care, no?
Yeah.
But Diana, you have information because you have from China coming back to the West, no? You have information what is happening in the markets that are more open, and the COVID is beginning to be more controlled, and perhaps talking about that, you have experienced what is happening in hotels in Europe and Asia about how they are managing the actual situation, no? With the social distance. And, well, all of us are seeing in the social media videos and pictures, you know, of the summer in the north, mainly in some countries in Europe and also in China. What is the experience with the protocols and the protocols in this new scenario? when the pandemic is beginning to be more controlled?
Yeah, so we definitely have the protocols across all of our hotels in China, and all of our hotels in China are now open. And what we're seeing is that there is obviously that huge eagerness and desire and pent-up demand for people to travel again. And we're seeing it mostly in leisure. And after spending weeks and months in isolation, I think that in China, we definitely saw it in a lot of our resort destinations. And they've had a lot of sold out weekends, a lot of full experiences, and they've removed, obviously, again, tables, as Hugo was mentioning, in restaurants, and making sure that the furniture is spaced out enough, and that we have all of the guidelines for the check-in areas, for the elevators, etc. But it's really about starting to build more of this kind of dual responsibility that we have, that there's just so much we can do as Marriott and as our hotel operators to put in these protocols, and the guest also has a role to play. So I think it's now about starting to have more of that dialogue and that two-way conversation about, this is what we're doing to provide you with the safety and security, and these are some of the things that you as guests could also be doing on your part, not just for your own safety and security as well, but then also that of the other guests. So we see that here in the US, for example, where some states require masks, some may not require masks of everybody. So when you arrive at a hotel that is open today, and the ones that are wearing it versus not. So I think it's really about starting to communicate. That's where we're at right now, is starting to communicate more with our guests about that mutual responsibility that we have, and ensuring that we're both really in it together for it. And if I can add something to Hugo's point about the kind of what the future could look like, and it was interesting. We've been doing a lot of calls with some of our customers, and one of them actually said, we were talking about meetings and events, because meetings and events are definitely going to look different. Like when we think about a wedding, or when we think about a 300-person conference or incentive trip, and we showed them a lot of the kind of the ways that we were thinking about them, how we were thinking about the food setups, how we were thinking about breaks, how we were thinking about the room layouts and things like that. And one of them actually said that they don't really want their celebration to look like a hospital because of all the cleanliness, and it's just how we ensure that we provide them with enough of that social distancing and the cleaning protocols, but also still allow that experience to happen. So we'll see that how that comes to life in the next couple of years, next couple of months.
Yeah, you are doing a terrific job, because you need to be in touch with your owners, with the governments, and with your staff, your complete staff, and with your clients. Mm-hmm. You know, in order to have clear to recover confidence. No, this is very important. In the region we have right now. Mainly the Caribbean, all the Caribbean. Well, it's beginning with Jamaica, Barbados, St. Lucia, but as soon as the time goes by, more islands are open. We'd be very interested to see what happened there, no? Because it's summertime, no? And mainly people love to travel, to go for holidays and so on. And how do you see what could happen because the Caribbean could be a good example for the rest of the region? No, what happened if the people go confidence is if nothing happened? No, yeah. This will be good lessons for all the rest of the region. How do you see is going this experience right now? It's beginning, but do you have information about that?
Yeah, so it's been interesting. Obviously, the Caribbean islands closed down their borders immediately. So they were the first ones to close down, not allow any flights in, not allowing flights out. And that helped a lot of these island nations to keep their case numbers sometimes in single digits or low double digits. So it was very, very interesting to see that. And obviously, some of them that depend on tourism, really making this commitment from their government to protect their people over the profit that they obviously would generate from having some of that tourism coming in. So the fact that all of that information has made the news and has been public, it's driven even further confidence and trust in the traveler. And again, for the Caribbean, it's mostly a U.S. source market, at least for us at Marriott, it's mostly U.S. source driven. And that U.S. traveler has now that confidence that those islands in the Caribbean did not get a ton of cases. They took a lot of the measures. So now when they start to reopen, they're feeling a lot more comfortable traveling there. So the type of demand that we're seeing for islands as they reopen, like Aruba, Puerto Rico, Grand Cayman is going to take a little bit longer, around September. But even for that time, the USVI with St. Thomas, we are definitely seeing the demand coming in, and we're seeing that the main limitation right now is obviously the airlift, and how we're able to work with those governments and with our airline partners has been really, really fundamental and key. Because what travelers are really saying is, I want to know that from the moment I arrive at the airport in, let's say, New York, from the moment I arrive at the airport in New York, I want to feel comfortable, I want to feel safe about my entire journey. So we are obviously only responsible from once you arrive at the hotel, or if we're arranging for your transportation from the airport to the hotel, but how we work with the destination so that they're taking the right precautions at their arrival airport, how we work with the airlines and communicating about their protocols, how we talk about the different restaurant protocols on the islands or the attraction protocols that may be taking. We need to be able to tell that full story, and that's what's really helping get some of this demand back into those islands over the summertime.
Yeah, I will be back with this because it's very important what you say about that. No, it's very complex. But before that, you let us know that the hotels in Lima are open, but mainly attending quarantine, no, and some workers. But I imagine that as soon as the time goes by, other segments will be your guests, no. Two different questions. How you manage? How you imagine we manage this situation, having in your hotels people in quarantine with people that is a typical guest that perhaps is beginning to go for business, no? How do you see you can manage these two situations in the same property, no? And in the second way, you have properties for leisure, for example, close to Lima, that is easy to go by car, no? Paracas, for example, that I imagine that soon will be ready to open or something like that, because the people will be ready to demand this kind of property. How are you managing that?
Yes. So to answer your first question, we have a segregation of people that are in quarantine versus guests. Unfortunately, today we have very little guests and mostly people in quarantine. So a couple of things that are important on that is that people are doing preventive quarantines with us. We are not doing quarantines for people that we know are infected. The protocol is that when they test positive, you know, there's government facilities for those that are positive. We've had some people test positive because, you know, that's part of the reason why they're in a preventive quarantine. You know, but usually those get discharged somewhere else that you provide them medical care, which we cannot. So, you know, we have people in preventive quarantine, and we give them a really good in-room experience. I mean, we keep them in the room. We do room service. We have done concerts via Zoom, specially targeted for them. We do movie night where we free up, you know, like we if they don't have a Netflix password or something, we provide. We send them popcorn. We've done contests, we've celebrated birthdays among the guests that are there with somebody in the room. So we have a complete array of entertainment, but geared towards people staying inside the rooms. So they stay in, and they are not allowed to wander around the hotel because they're on a preventive quarantine. So it will make little sense for us to let them roam around. If we are afraid that some of them may be made test positive. For regular guests, which we have less and less, we used to have more, but as some flights have been authorized, they've been exiting the country. We do have some at one of our hotels in Lima, and what the general manager has done there is that he's segregated them into higher floors, and he does the F&B in the executive lounge. You know, so they also, you know, we encourage them to stay in the rooms. For example, if somebody wants to work out, we ask them what they want to do, and we either send them a video or send them even the weights from the gym up so they can use in the room. If somebody wants to eat something, but if they want to get out of the room, we have a socially distanced lounge where they can sit and they can have a drink and get some bar experience and, you know, some dining experience. So that's how we solved question number one. As to question number two, what do we anticipate? How we anticipate demand to grow? You're absolutely right. I mean, I think it's no secret that what we've seen in China and the US is mainly domestic and mainly drive-to. We have one hotel like that is in the outskirts of Lima, in a beautiful beach, and we expect the hotel to resume normal in July, be the first one of our portfolio, and we expect people from Lima to drive there, and we're prepared to provide a safe stay in those hotels, in that hotel. And that's how we expect it to recover. Second stage is we really hope that the government follows their reopening plan and they resume domestic flights in next month. If that was the case, then we could start thinking about our Cusco and Sacred Valley properties. And then we know that the final phase is the international travel. So that's going to take a little bit longer. We are thinking of supporting ways for governments to maybe think of like doing bilateral agreements and opening certain borders to foster like travel between destinations that have similar phases of the curve and have a lot of movement or interdependency economy. So we're thinking along those lines, but that's phase 3, and that's still a couple of months ahead probably.
Yeah, and about the property in Paracas, that is mainly like a resort destination, no? How do you imagine will be some service like a spa, and you have in mind that you can bring this kind of service with some special protocols, or will be closed this kind?
Well, today you legally cannot in Peru, so it's still closed. What we are trying to work with the government is ways that we can provide some services that are safe. For example, we will not, even if it's allowed, we will not open an indoor gym, a fitness center. We would do it if we find maybe a way to have it on demand, and people could book the hour that they want to be in the gym, and maybe if we have 100 square meters of gym, for example, we would limit it to I don't know, 5 to 6 people maximum. But we will probably not do it. Instead, we will invite them to do yoga or run and be outdoors. We know that the risk of infection outdoors is significantly lower than indoor. So everything that can be outside, we're gonna propose that. We're thinking also about putting movies in the outside, for people to, within sufficient distance, watch something together. We're trying to get the government to agree on us using the outdoor pools. And the last thing about spas is that, we're figuring out whether we can do maybe in-room treatments. That will be the way to solve it. Having 6 people shoved into a Turkish bath or a sauna, we won't have it. Not this season.
Yeah, I can imagine. And Diana, well, you have properties all around the world. You have properties with urban resorts, different kind of properties. You have protocols that can allow the properties to manage the spas, and if it's possible, how you implement that?
Yeah, and to Hugo's point, obviously in some countries and some cities, you're not allowed to have the spas open or fitness centers, but in those that they are allowed to, we do have the protocol specifically for them, for the hotels to also implement. For the gyms, for example, the way that they should be cleaning the equipment after every single use, wherever possible, around kind of setting up, if you have 6 treadmills, being able to block one in between. And in the spas, the way obviously to stagger the times, the appointment times for the clients, and being able to apply the same cleaning protocols into the treatment rooms, etc. So that is all part of the work that has been done. It's all the way from, again, from the pool areas, how you space out the pool chairs, the beach spaces, and then down to the spas and any of the entertainment areas, and ensuring that the hotels that have those and that are able to open them have the protocols available to them. But yeah, that's part of it. I know that here, actually in the US, I'm about to go and stay in a hotel in a couple of weeks, and their spa is open, so they'll be implementing obviously all these new protocols. So.
Yeah, we will see. It will be interesting to see what's happening in the Caribbean, no, in the next couple of months, because the people go, wake up in the morning, go for breakfast buffet. After that, go to the beach or to the swimming pool and stay mainly the whole day, no?
Yeah.
In the water with them, well, eating and with the glass. Well, we will see, no?
Yeah.
What happened, and could be a good lesson. Coming back to, you mentioned, well, this situation that is very complex, no? Because you have protocols in your hotel, everything was perfect, but the travel experience is more than to be in the hotel. No? The complete experience is from when you close the door in your home until you open the door in your home. And in the middle, you need to go to the airport and pass all the protocols of the airport. In the airport, there are different institutions that manage that. No? You have the protocols on the plane, you arrive, and well, for example, the Caribbean have put in practice some protocols that assure that the guests will be under control before they arrive until they go back to the airport to go home. But it's so complex to put this all together. And more of that, we need, first, we have most of the borders as international are closed, no? For the region, for Latin America and the Caribbean, no? If the US don't open borders, no? Most of the destinations, well, you know, one of the main markets are the US, and they are also the Caribbean. How do you foresee if the US citizens will be, when do you expect that they could begin to travel? And more, if borders open, they will be confident to travel to the region.
Yeah. So we're definitely seeing it on the leisure side. So we're definitely seeing it in what we have for July, what we're seeing right now, even in markets like Cancun that is open, that we started to open, and what we're seeing in some of the islands of what we what we're getting from our travel partners and what the hotels obviously have for expected numbers for July. So we're seeing that the US traveler is definitely ready to go when it comes to leisure. I think what is going to take a little bit longer is going to be that corporate traveler that may be coming into some of those destinations. If you are coming into Mexico City or into Bogota or into Lima for business, and a lot of those corporate accounts obviously waiting longer because they want to make sure that they're taking the right precautions for their employees as well, and because it is our entire journey. So we're lucky to have an incredible global sales organization that works very closely with a lot of those large corporate travel partners, large corporations here in the US, and sharing with them obviously all of our protocols. But for them, it's a lot about continuing to gain that confidence of the entire journey for their employees. But on the leisure side, I think that because of what I mentioned earlier about some of these destinations having now built enough of the reputation for having stayed safe and having kept the number of cases so low, that we're seeing the bookings coming in for sure. Again, when we talk about Puerto Rico and some of the hotels we're opening there, when we talk about Cancun, when we talk about Cabo, and you also even hear it, like you hear it a lot from friends and family here, and just they're ready to go and sit on one of those beaches, and to your point, even like just spending the whole day in the pool with a cocktail and some food and their families around. So I think that the more we keep communicating it, the better, obviously, the more we're able to keep those safety and security protocols, obviously, the better. How the destinations continue to work across all of their travel partners and making sure that restaurants, the attractions, the airports are all in line will be key, and continuing that work in some of the other cities. I know Hugo has a great initiative that we've been working on across some of the countries in the region on its own as well, and how we work with the airports, how we work with the airlines, with us as hoteliers, with some of the tourism offices as well in some of the destinations, and building even more of that. And those safety travel bubbles are continuing to rise more and more. So we're seeing it in Europe, obviously. We have China and Singapore. We have Portugal and the UK. And getting more of those into the region is going to be also very important for the travelers to know that this is a set travel bubble, and for them to continue to use those routes more.
Thank you. We are in the last 5-10 minutes. Perhaps we will take 2-3 minutes more, in order, because we have some question for the audience, some very interesting, and I have one or two more questions, and perhaps you have something to say at the end. But for example, people is asking, what about laundry process? It's interesting, no? Because you have protocols, but how do you manage all the laundry process to be sure how they arrive to the room, no?
Do you want to take it, Diana, or do you want me to take it?
You have it in action close by, so I'll let you take that one, Hugo.
Okay. Well, I'm not a laundry expert, but what I can tell you is that initially we were very scared, and we were, like sending everything out to like this kind of like CSI places where they do like crime scene cleaning and everything. But what we realize is that with the correct chemicals, you can be certified and wash everything internally and have it be free of COVID. The other thing that is important to understand, there's 3 components. So one, you get the right chemicals to clean, and it's actually chemicals that the industry has used during the SARS and the MERS epidemic, because it's very similar. So it's nothing that is foreign to us. It's new, safe, very safe to use, and zero spread, and the virus can survive. The second one is temperature. Usually, with extreme temperature, any organism can be killed, any virus can certainly be killed. And the third one is that, you know, the surface contact is limited. It's not that, okay, I touch something and then, you know, like 2 weeks later I'll come and I'll get contagious. It's a matter of hours, or like there's, you know, there's different theories, but they all agree that it's not a permanent thing. So what we also do is we increase our par level, so it takes longer the rotation, and it takes actually longer for us to touch the ones that have been used, because more so than having a guest be contagious because they used a linen that was used in the past, my biggest concern is somebody who handles them gets contagious. So what we do is we take longer from the time that, you know, the guest uses them until we put our hands into them.
Thank you. And about bookings or requests, are you receiving bookings or requests for, say, September, October, or something in the future, near future, or nothing? Nowadays, how is the experience about the feeling of the clients? No? Are they requesting information or doing bookings for a couple of months in advance?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing.
That's you, Diana.
We're definitely seeing activity for September and the fall and into 2021. We're definitely seeing it. I think that what's been great is to hear from so many customers that they want to see exactly what it will look like at a hotel, for example. So they may have seen our protocols, they've seen our video that, you know, Mr. Marriott obviously showcases the protocols we're implementing. But if they're planning a trip to, let's say, to Cusco and to Lima, they want to know, what is this going to look like when I actually arrive at your hotel? What is your front desk going to look like? What are the rooms going to look like? What is the restaurant and the pool area going to look like at this particular hotel, so that I can feel comfortable booking it? So the teams have been really kind of developing a lot of that communication, a lot of the pre-arrival communication also with guests, but we are seeing it, and hopefully we're able to get past, obviously, the major health concerns of this and getting through it. And as Hugo pointed earlier, just being optimistic about the medical industry really finding whether it's a vaccine or a cure, or how we slow down this spread even further, so that people continue to feel even more and more comfortable traveling again. But it's been positive to see some of the trends. Not obviously nothing compared in a lot of the markets to what we may have seen in previous years, but definitely seeing volume there.
You know, we are talking about that the leisure will become the first segment that will move. What about corporate and most? What about meeting and convention? How do you see these two important segments, you know, in order to recover the business as we have in the past? Perhaps, well, I will begin with Hugo now.
Well, I'll be short, because I think Diana knows much more about this and she has a regional perspective. We think it's going to be the last to recover, to be very candid, but we're prepared. We're prepared for them. You know, we're going to have more space between, you know, like seats. We're going to have, you know, the usual, you know, big table that sits 10 people on a wedding. Now it's going to sit, you know, 4. You know, the coffee breaks are going to be spaced. There's going to be less buffet and more a la carte. So we're prepared, but we're also, you know, like sufficiently realistic that that's going to be probably anything that's a convention or a group, probably going to be the last thing to recover.
And Diana, do you have experience what is if something is happening in China, for example, that is about meeting and conventions?
Yep, so we are seeing groups in China, and we're actually also seeing some group here in the US as well, but we are definitely seeing some group in China. Again, not to the same numbers that we would have seen before, but we are seeing the leads coming. We are seeing some of the bookings being confirmed. Some of the groups are smaller in size in many cases compared to what we used to see in the past in some of the markets, obviously, as they may be looking into doing hybrid events now, where if it used to be 300 people in person, now they may do 150 in person and 150 virtually. So we are seeing quite a bit on that. And again, I think that a lot of it for us has been just having a pretty incredible global sales force that handles hundreds of corporate customers and staying very close to them on their travel policies. So understanding where they're at in their timelines and understanding what they need to be comfortable with their employees from a special corporate perspective traveling again. But it's a lot of constant engagement, constant communication, providing all the info, providing everything around our protocols, and continuing to design the future in partnership with them.
Thank you. We are finishing right now, but you know, as at that time, hearing you for the last 1 hour, we understand that protocols, all the people, all the companies, all the institutions, all the owners are working hard, all the governments, but well, it's a complex. It's complex to put all together, and the more complex is that we need to recover the confidence of the travelers, no? Because this pandemic, no, that from the very beginning, every day we receive information from the social media, such a number of people is infected, such a number of people dead. Well, the travelers, the people, is so much concerned, no? And seems that will take some time to recover the confidence. No? I would like to understand, you, Diana, are part of perhaps one of the biggest hotel company. Hugo, you are the CEO of an important hotel owners. You are institutions that the travelers and the people went very well. What happened with how is your feeling about independent properties? You know? Because independent properties have additional challenge, no? That is to convince by themselves that they will provide, no, this safe regulation, these safe protocols. No, it's like for me now seems that brands and big hotel operators perhaps will have opportunities in order to give a special solution for these independent properties that perhaps the owner say, no, it's not time to have a very good manager or a very good brand. How do you see this process after the pandemic or in the middle of the pandemic? It's two different visions, no? One from the brand and one from the owner of a very important management company, no? Diana?
Yeah, so I think from our perspective, it's obviously we have a 93-year history and reputation to stand with and a great brand portfolio. And I think that that's a lot of what the customers see and what, again, the relationships with our corporate customers, with the travel advisors, et cetera. So I think it's a great opportunity for those independent owners that may be interested in this time leveraging a brand like ours, leveraging that expertise, those protocols that have been established, and the reach that obviously we provide during this time as well, and the connectivity, the support obviously of the organization, and being able to navigate through these times. And we know that customers obviously in some cases they want that independent travel, independent hotel experience, and with some of our collections, we're able to provide that as well. So we're able to kind of bring them the independent boutique experience with the Marriott feel behind it, basically. So yeah, so it's a conversation definitely to keep having for sure.
Your vision, Hugo, from an important hotel manager, an owner.
Well, Yeah, well, Diana did the development pitch that I would have done on my previous hat. You know, so I think there's a point on saying that, you know, if you belong to a big family with a great reputation like Marriott, you know, and as people recover confidence slowly, they're gonna go towards what they know, and what they know is certainly Marriott, or other companies eventually. But I agree with Diana. It's a good time. If you are in the fence, it's a good time to consider, because it gives you one extra edge, which is, you know, access. And for us, it has worked perfectly, and we're very happy. You know, but on the other hand, I do believe that independent hotels should get there in terms, maybe not in terms of like, maybe not in terms of providing the same level of confidence that a big brand does, but to provide a level of that the minimum standards will be taken care of regardless of which hotel you go. I believe destinations need to be safe. I think that we're not going to see demand reestablished if we know that, okay, I can only travel if I stay, you know, at X and Y brand name. I think, you know, the destination should be safe, and that's why we've supported, you know, the local government. We constantly support the industry. We share protocols with independent hotels. We share experiences, because we are not in a point that we can compete, because there's no demand to compete for. So we can say to everybody, we have the best protocols, but still we're going to have zero occupancy in many places because there's no demand. Demand will be there when the destination is safe, not when a particular hotel is safe. And for the destination to be safe, you need branded and independent hotels, as well as the entire journey of the traveler to be safe. Only then will governments will open borders, will resume flights, and we'll start getting people coming in. You know, and when people come in, then only then we can start competing with our neighbor on who has the best protocols, because we'll have something to compete for.
Yeah, I have my last questions. No, I suppose that you have forecasts and you have some practice some scenarios. When do you think we will be back in levels like 2019, levels like before the pandemic? Ayana?
What our teams and what our leadership is looking at and what our data is telling us, it's probably going to be a couple of years at least. So it's definitely going to be 2022 or beyond. So that's right now, that's kind of what we're looking at.
And what is the vision of Intursa, Hugo?
We have a similar vision. I think this is a more of when will we have a vaccine or a cure? I think until then, we will not get to normal, honestly. I think, you know, the social distancing on travel, I think if we have a declared pandemic, we're not gonna go back to normal. Once the pandemic is over, depending how long it takes for the pandemic to be over, it's gonna be proportionally the amount of time it takes for the recovery. And the reason is very simple. The more time we spend during a pandemic, the more people are going to get unemployed, the more companies are going to go bankruptcy, the deeper of an economic crisis we'll have to recover from, hence the longer it'll take to go back to normal.
Yeah, it's tough, but could be true. And this is a very important issue, no? Because some people is asking what is worse, the pandemic of the economic scenario, no? And because we are waiting for the vaccine, but perhaps this virus disappear, SARS disappear. Nobody knows. And perhaps the relation with the virus, from the relation between us and the virus will become different. Perhaps we will live with them, no? But nobody knows. Before to end this session, I would like if you have something that we don't cover and you'd like to share with the audience, you have your time. Diana first, and then you.
Thank you so much, Arturo, and thank you to your team for having us. Thank you, Hugo. It was a great conversation. And again, I think that the more feedback we continue to get from our owners, from our customers, from our hoteliers, the stronger we're going to come out of this. So I think it's about continuing the conversation and continuing to build together. So thank you so much for having me.
Hugo.
Yeah, I echo that. It's been great. You know, the only thing is that you know, we need to work as a team, as an industry, as a region, and with the governments. I think this is not the time to be us versus them. This is the time for us to all together recover confidence and travel, and we need to be very to work as one with our governments, because ultimately they are the decision makers as to when can business resume.
Thank you, and thank you. Really, it's a good point. We need to work together. The industry needs all of us working together. Thank you so much to joining us in this session. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Hugo. Thank you to the whole audience. And we will wait for you next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, July 1st, for episode 15. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.